Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
Welcome, everybody, to the FPV News. I'm so glad to be here with you, and I'm glad to be here with you. Blunty, how are you doing tonight?
Good, Joshua. How's it going?
Oh, very well, very well. We got some exciting news in the world of FPV tonight to let all the folks know about. Every week, there's just more stuff to talk about.
It keeps coming, and we'll
Yeah.
keep reporting on it.
Yeah, it's good because it keeps us busy. But before we get into that, let me just say thank you to all the beautiful people who have showed up. Nope. Not going to be on screen without you, Blunty. Let me say hello to all the beautiful people who are coming in, trickling in at the beginning of the stream. Hungry for the latest in the world of FPV. Oh, yes. We'll give it to you. Don't worry. Thank you so much for you guys being here in the chat and to the beautiful people in the Discord server as well. Morton Upshot, I appreciate your joke, but I'm not gonna explain it to everybody who didn't see yesterday's stream. Blunty, what are some exciting things that we're going to talk about tonight? Let's give them some highlights before we dive in.
Let's see. Ryan Harrell has released a frame open source. So if you wanted to have something to mess with and use something from someone who's been in the industry and like is pretty good at that design and understanding and stuff, he's got a GitHub project and an open source that we'll talk about.
Yeah, another open source frame to compete with the Source One. Not a lot of those out there, to be honest. Do you ever wonder, those little right angle adapters and 45 adapters that you use for your video antennas? Do you ever wonder just how much those are hurting your signal? Well, our friend Sandor who has access to RF test equipment, is going to tell us, and the results The results surprised me. I'll say that. I won't tease you by saying they may surprise you, but they surprised me. So we're going to talk about that. What else? What else are we going to do this week?
Well, we've got another drone cinematic of the week, and this is a good one because it's from JB Films, the guy who did the bowling alley shot we looked at, and that went all over the internet. So got another good one shot from him.
My God, like you hit that big, and then how do you top that, right? Everything you do from there on out is like Matrix 2 and Matrix 3. Like, yeah. I mean, well, maybe he'll be a Godfather too. He'll go up instead of down. And we've got some exciting news about Lexi Jansen, one of our favorite FPV racing pilots. She's going to be racing something a little bit unusual. But before we get into all of that, well, we always like to start the news with public service announcements. Stuff that like 5 of you out there are really going to need to know this stuff. And we think it's so important. We're going to take a few minutes at the beginning of the stream while your attention span is the highest and make sure you know about these issues. So, Blunty, where are we going to start?
All right. First up, there's a quick PSA people need to know about. Basically, there's been an issue recently where some ESCs are not reporting temperature properly. So ESCs normally report temperature over telemetry, and that's not a big deal. But one of the other things that ESCs use the temperature on board for, it's on the MCUs, is actually to do the temperature protection. So typically in BL32, most ESCs have temperature protection enabled at 140 degrees Celsius, just to protect, to make sure, your FETs aren't melting off, that sort of thing.
Right.
It's been there for a while. However, some ESCs recently, I know the Diatone F50s are shipping like this now.
Okay.
Do not have temperature protection enabled. And what happens is, for some reason, they're not reporting the temperature. And if you do enable temperature protection, which happens when you flash forward to a new ESC firmware, that temperature protection may prevent you from being able to run your quad like normal. So what you'll see is you'll spin up the throttle, and then as you go up in throttle, it'll work normally, and then suddenly it'll cut down, way down in throttle.
Right. So normally temperature protection is on in BL Heli, and it's set to 140 degrees Celsius, and your ESC never gets anywhere close to 140 degrees Celsius, so you never even know it exists. And in fact, I've said temperature protection on, temperature protection off, it doesn't really matter. But these ESCs, the temperature sensor reports the wrong temperature, and they ship with temperature protection off. So clearly somebody knew this was an issue. Yeah, but then when you flash BL Heli to a new version, it goes back to being on, and then your ESC basically just shuts down the minute you take off.
Yeah, Carl Stone from Diatone is also giving that information. Yeah, please turn the temp protection back off. That's like a thing they're telling people. So if you do experience this, know that it's likely not an issue, and you shouldn't see problems from disabling it. But it is it seems to be turning on. It's not properly set off on the targets for the new targets when you flash. So.
Okay. So if you just flashed a new version of BL Heli and all of a sudden, as soon as you take off, your quad just acts like the battery died, this is probably why. Go turn temperature protection off. What do we know why the chip isn't what happened? Is this just another casualty of 2021?
I can't tell you for sure because it's hard to get enough data, and I did not get a response from Diatone exactly why. But from what I can tell, it's due to the clone MCUs. So they've recently been using clone MCUs instead of standard MCUs because they're cheaper or easier to get. And they use a couple different brands. One we were looking at was CKS. And it seems like those are reporting, at least the one we tested was reporting a 0 Celsius. And I think BL32 sees that and then knows it's not valid. But I'm not 100% sure. So I wasn't able to lock down exactly why. We just know that the symptom is when you turn it on, it does seem to not be responding correctly.
Well, this would be a big freaking deal if we were actually using the temperature sensor that's built into the MCU. I mean, technically we're using it, but realistically you seldom hit that temperature limit under most conditions. But somewhere out there, someone's actually using this MCU and needs the temperature, and they're screwed.
Presumably,
sucks to be them.
And, yeah.
All right. Excuse me. I was eating peas before the stream. I got pea fiber in my tea. Sorry. All right, we got one other PSA. And this PSA, I have given out information contrary to this PSA. I have said, so Crossfire has 4 wires. It's 5 volts, ground, TX, and RX. And I have said, if you need to, you could use just the TX wire, which carries the commands, and the RX wire gets the telemetry. You don't need the telemetry wire if you're willing to go without telemetry.
Yes.
And apparently, that is not true.
Correct. Yeah, that is not true. And it seems like this was a change. So this was a change that happened. So if you're on older firmware, you may not see this issue, and you may see it when you move up in firmware.
I'm so relieved. So I was right.
Yes, I believe you were correct with Crossfire V2, but it seems like with the implementation of V3, they changed that there's a baud negotiation between the flight controller and the RX. And unfortunately, what happens is there's no fallback or failsafe if the baud negotiation doesn't happen properly. So it will just continue to try to renegotiate that baud over and over and over again, and that will do some packet interruption on the RC frame rate.
So whenever wiring up a Crossfire receiver or tracer, same thing, always use all 4 wires, TX and RX, which is what most people were doing anyway. But if you're one of the few people who, for some reason, wasn't using the RX wire, it turns out that you do need it.
Yes. And then also, if you're using S-Bus, then it's not a problem. So S-Bus is still single wire. You can do that with Crossfire, and you can set it to S-Bus. As long as you set it in the settings to S-Bus and you're using the S-Bus protocol, then this is not an issue. This is only an issue with CRSF because it tries to negotiate for CRSF v3, is my understanding.
Yeah, so Crossfire receivers can output S-Bus if you have a flight controller that only does S-Bus for some reason. That's okay. You don't need all 4 wires then. Got it.
Yep.
Okay, I think I'm caught up. That is going to do it for our public service announcements. Next up, we have a last-minute piece of news. This just came out this morning, and we are super excited to announce that Lexi Jansen, Myon High, is going to be racing in the EXA series, the airspeeder. What does that mean, Blunty?
Well, so we've talked before about Aluda Airspeeder and their issues, and then their future testing and proving that they could actually make stuff. And they've been testing to try to make a basically racing league with full manned drones instead of like, like our unpiloted drones, our unmanned UAVs. So they've been testing and trying to get everything ready, and they're working to eventually start a season of racing. And it looks like they have hired Lexi for one of their pilots.
Now, they're building aircraft that can, let's see, we got a picture right here. They're building aircraft that are capable of carrying a human pilot. They're not currently being flown with human pilots in them, right?
Correct. Yep. The first while, I think they said like the first few years, they plan to do unmanned piloting. So they do racing with these full size vehicles, but it'll just be like FPV style racing. And then once they can prove that everything's working and they're not having all these issues and they're safe for people to use and they've got all the kinks worked out, then they're going to try to start putting people in them. I believe that.
Oh, she's here. She's here in the chat. Hi, Myon High. She says she's in an online course, so she has to go, but she'll come back on the break. No problem. Congratulations, Lexi. A great racing pilot and a great content creator in so many different ways. And the thought of her getting in one of those things and flying it for real makes me cringe, but also get a little tingle somewhere in my gut at the same time.
Right.
Super cool. For now, she's just going to be flying remotely. What an opportunity, though. So she moved, I believe. She said on Facebook she was literally moving from where she lived to, I guess, wherever this job is. Is this going to be her new full-time job? I don't know.
Adelaide. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Adelaide. Where's Adelaide?
In the South Australia.
Lord Almighty. She moved to Australia. She doesn't even live in Europe anymore. Wow. I don't know why that freaks me out so much. She's so European in my mind. Do you know if she took her car with her, her Tesla? I don't know. I don't know why you would know that. She's in the chat. Maybe she'll tell us. You got to get another Tesla, right? You can't. I don't know. That really freaks me out.
I don't know. For the cost of a Tesla, you might get paid to move a Tesla. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes, floppy props. They were the ones that used R9 on the wrong frequency.
Yeah.
So, well, that is very exciting and very exciting for her as well. So, congratulations, Lexi. All right. Oh no! Wait a minute. I didn't do that. I didn't do the... We have to do it again. No. All right. Next up, Blunty, what's next?
All right, so iFlight has announced they are completely switching to the BMI 270. And I think this is something we're going to be seeing a lot more often from a lot more manufacturers coming up. So they are switching from the MPU 6000 because they are running out of supply, and they don't have many more. So they are now moving to the BMI 270. We talked a little bit about the BMI 270, and that has some issues with sensitivity on frequency because it doesn't have a hardware low pass, and you'll just need to set a software low pass to account for that. And there's a preset in Betaflight. There's also a very heated discussion on the changes that could possibly go with OSR4 that we discussed a little bit in the past. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm interested to see how that all works out, but it does look like this will be something we're going to be dealing with more and more. So, yeah.
Quick Flash in the chat, Quick Flash Kevin Plaisir, the EmuFlight dev, says that what actually happened, we don't know if this is true, I'm just repeating a salacious rumor from Quick Flash, is that they sold their stock of MPU 6000s and for $10 a piece and bought the BMI 270 for about $2 a piece. His assertion is that they had a bunch of MPU 6000s that they could make money on.
I would have done it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's...
I don't think it's $8 a difference.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean... So the takeaway, though, and this really... Kudos to Chris Rosser, who recently did some explanation of the different performance of the different gyros. He found that the BMI 270 could be basically as good as the MPU 6000 or the IMC gyros, but they need a little bit of different Betaflight software filtering because the hardware filtering inside the gyro is a little different. So is this a bad thing? Or is it a good thing, or is it neutral?
I think it's just something users have to learn about. I think that's the way it's going to go for now. I'm interested to see how the OSR4 thing works out, the PR and Betaflight. That won't be in there until 4.4 anyway, because it's such a major change. However, yeah, it may be a big deal. When you go and look, Chris Rosser has most recently provided a basically his summary of his last bit of data, and that's the last place I saw it listed. But there's 50 comments in there or something. So,
yeah. So the other question is, why did they go? And you don't know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway because what the hell? We're just having a discussion. Why did they go with the Bosch gyro and not the ICM gyro that everybody else, the 2802 or whatever, that everybody else is using? Does anybody know? Is there a good reason?
I'm not sure exactly. I know certain of those gyros have been shown to have more issues with noise, just tolerance in general, maybe something else is with the design because all these have the different style of MEMS, so the MEMS isn't identical. So it's possible that the way the MEMS are designed on these make them differently susceptible to our quad noise or something like that. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I know that's some people have said about the 6050 because the 6050 was supposed to be a direct replacement, but we've seen most people not good at that at all. It's just been the ICM and the Bosch gyro. So.
Yeah. So as who was pointing it out in the chat, Andy Dredd points out, Brain FPV has been using these Bosch gyros for years and it hasn't been a problem. However,
it's relative.
What do you mean by that?
People haven't been tuning their filters to the nth degree forever. That's what I would say.
Right. I think that we didn't know. Now maybe Brain FPV knew and was making some changes under the hood in the custom firmware they build. You don't think so?
I can tell you, I already checked. Yeah.
I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, so the Bosch gyro basically has less filtering, and it means if you were running the Bosch gyro with Betaflight default filters, you just had less filtering, which could make you fly better if you have a clean build.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It just depends. And it's hard to say exactly because most frames are going to have resonance under that 700 somewhere. There's going to be at least one spike.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to be clear, I know we haven't exactly explained it maybe, but the cutoff on the Bosch gyro is higher. It's around 700, I think, or 750
hertz. Yeah.
And then MPU is 250 hertz, I believe, is the cutoff. So
Right.
any noise from 250 hertz up to that 700 that the low pass would normally catch that's inside the hardware on the MPU 6000, all that noise is passed in your gyro scaled down
Right.
to the flight controller. And so the
Right.
flight controller has to do the work to do that filtering that the hardware would have done in the MPU 6000. It looks like there's not really a loss of time there because it seems like the hardware is similar to the software in latency from testing. It's just the fact that you need to know it's there. And if you have the
Right.
noise, you need to apply the filters.
Right. If you just use the default filters, you'll get more gyro noise, which if you have a noisy, but the weird thing is, and maybe this just speaks to placebo in customers, people talk about, oh, the Brain FPV with the Bosch gyro, so smooth. They talk about it as if it has more filtering when actually it has less. And I don't know what to make of that, but anyway. Bosch gyro is coming our way, so we should, apply that Betaflight preset to our filters so that it'll then just, go on about our business, I guess. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Next up, we got a community spotlight. Our friend License to Drive, also known as Ridwan Hughes, has some 3D prints that he's come up with. What has he made for us, Blunty?
All right, so the first one is going to be a 350 spacer. So basically, if you check out that first one there, so basically you made these little print inserts that you put in, and then you put your own wire in them, and essentially you bridge the gap between the 18350 and 650, so you don't have a special charger or a scaling charger to be able to charge them. These are, I think, in the new Zorro and a couple other things have these smaller 18350s. So.
Very clever. Just a little wire and this little nub. I got to be honest with you. I don't think I have a single 18650 charger that isn't like spring loaded, but I guess they exist.
Mine is, but I'm not sure if it's spring loaded far enough to go down for an 18350. I looked at it. I don't have one to try in there, but it seems like it might not go far enough down there. So
yeah. Alrighty. Cool. Very cool. Zorro users, check that out.
And otherwise, we've got a couple TPU bunks, I believe is the technical term. Some little safety protectors for your USB slots that are easy to print and pop right in there.
Yeah, okay. I could see it. Never really had a problem with dirt getting in my USB, but maybe if I ran props out, I would be more interested in this. That's slick.
Yeah. Yeah,
all
pretty
right.
Cool.
Nice work, License to Drive. Check out all of his stuff. He's got a ton of really cool prints, including where his receiver. Yeah. One of my favorite things is he makes these receiver mounts, which we've covered previously. They're cool because they print flat. They print flat, so you don't need to worry about supports or any of that nonsense. And then they fold over your receiver and mount on a 20x20 or 30x30 and hold your receiver really nicely. And it's just a really nice way to mount your receiver while still having access to the bind button and the LEDs and all that stuff. Just a very, very clever and efficient design. So
yeah,
check him
cool.
out. DPU for my bunghole. Huff 19. Thank you so much. Beavis and Butthead. Do you watch Beavis and Butthead, Blunty? Are you old enough?
I don't know. It never hit with me.
You remember? Never. You remember them? You just never
I know of it. Yeah, it was never my thing.
So. Mike Judge, really a much smarter man than his comedy made him seem. I think. Anyway, it's our new culture segment that we're going to start doing. Alrighty, next up, Blunty. What has Ryan Harrell done now?
All right, he open sourced his frame. So he decided to open source his frame, the Crush frame. He's had this frame for a little while, for quite a while, I believe. And he decided to just give it open source and see what other people want to do with it. And get it out there for people to try out. So he's got some different models and designs, and all the files are available for you in a nice GitHub repo.
Yeah. Ryan Harrell is the designer of the Luminaire QAV-S series for sure, and several other frames by Luminaire. So he is no stranger to frame design. But the Crush, I think, was a project he did for himself. Like I've been to his house, actually. I interviewed him once. He literally just has a carbon fiber CNC machine in his garage, and he cuts his own frames and cuts his own parts. So it's cool that he has open sourced this for
Yeah,
anybody.
so this might be somewhat convenient or somewhat interesting because I'm not sure how many frames like this have. He has a 2.5 inch, 3, 4, 5, 5.5, 6, and 7 inch, and then some mods for the 5 inch that fit some chameleon parts too. So pretty interesting. All kinds of different sizes and shapes and compatibility and stuff.
So if you've got your own CNC machine, you could cut this yourself. Or I don't know, is there any way, like with a 3D printing service, where you could send a DXF file and have someone cut it for you out of carbon?
As far as I know, that you can, as long as you have the files, you can get stuff cut like that. You just got to contact the places. But
like, where do you contact? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't know if CNC Madness will do individuals or not. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but yeah.
Yeah, or of course, you could also modify it if you wanted to. So that's really, really cool, and really good job, Ryan. Ryan's done a lot for this hobby with his motor testing and so forth. So now, there's a link in our video description in our show notes to the GitHub repo. You can download all the files and play with them. Really cool.
Yeah. So folks in chat are saying CNC Madness will cut them. You just email them, and then JLC PCB will cut carbon for you.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to guess it's not as cost effective as just buying it because you're not ordering in bulk. But if you wanted to do some custom work, you could get it cut for yourself.
Yeah. Jack's 3D printing also will cut carbon.
Yeah. Okay, great. Hey, UAV Tech is here. Looks like we didn't run him off with our rant. I'm glad to hear that he's come back. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Next up. What's next, Blunty?
We've got some antenna testing by Sandor Dubronner. We've had him on quite a few times. And he's got another cool little experiment for us. I believe Aber the Ham in one of your live streams mentioned that he wanted to know how the SMA adapters work and what the actual loss was. So Sandor decided to go in and do some testing and see.
And we're so lucky to have him because he has access to like commercial lab grade, whatever RF equipment, which I mean, that typically costs in the range of like $5,000 to $50,000. I don't know what specific machines he has. Not something you just pick up if you want to play around. And he takes his time to do these tests for us. So he's testing these different adapters and connectors, right? What did we find, Blunty?
It's got a little chart here that shows basically, if you use a 45 at 6.5 for the male to female, a 90 is 11.1% loss, and then for the female to female, and then male to female is 12.5%, which all kind of track. And then he said he was interested because when he did the 2x45, the male to female, you see there's quite a large discrepancy there. So for some reason, because when you start stacking these connectors, they seem to get quite a bit worse. And he said he used multiple sets of 45 stacked together, and each one of them came out around this 21% versus only 6.5%, 6.7% for 145. Kind of interesting.
Yeah. So what we see here is that the adapters, the 0 degree, which is like an RPSMA to SMA, which just buy the right connector for your antenna and save yourself the trouble, but it's only essentially a negligible loss, 0.6%. But a 45 degree or a 90 degree, that's a fair amount of loss, I gotta say.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know how. I mean, it's definitely good to test because I think people have said there's been a bit of loss for a while. But yeah, that is not a small amount. So it may be quite a bit of a factor, especially if you're putting them on patches to try to push ranges and stuff. So definitely something to consider. Also, I think some patches come with them, so they're like tuned with the SMA, right? I think it depends on the patch.
I mean, if the antenna has a 90 degree built in, I wouldn't assume that you're not taking this loss. I don't know. But I wouldn't assume, I mean, the loss may be simply because you're bending the wire and high frequency RF signals don't like to change direction.
Right.
I just don't know. I mean, that would also be interesting to know, but
it's also interesting because like you're saying, you would think 245s would be easier than a 90, instead of harder, because a 90 is just kind of a hard cut.
Yeah,
right?
it's not as sharp a turn.
But it seems like that's there's something else going on there. There's some loss between the connections and something about, I guess the way, I don't know enough about RF, but maybe the way it changes the actual signal or something.
Yeah.
So
Robert Rempel says that Alex Grieve of Video Aerial Systems did this test years ago. Well, if it's a good thing that there's reasons for more than one person to do the same test to see if they get the same results, because my recollection is that Alex Grieve concluded the loss was negligible, like less than half a dB. I don't remember his results matching this. So it doesn't mean he's wrong and Sandor is right, but just saying, oh, that test has been done, so we never need to think about it again, is not a good one. Robert Rempel says that contact points are where you lose signal, which may explain why 245s is worse than 190.
Sandor says it's something to do with capacity, but I'm not sure what capacity means in the case of RF.
Capacitance?
I don't know. Maybe it is
Maybe it's a
capacitance, and
translation.
he's just saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
He says if you look at the Smith chart, we can see that 2x45 is adding so much capacity that the results jump so bad. So maybe it is capacitance.
I think he's saying capacitance, but I don't want to presume. So the takeaway is, if possible, use no angled adapters. If you need an angled adapter, try to use a 45. Don't use 2x45, use 190. And RPSMA or SMA makes no difference. It's just the bends that slow you down. Well, I don't know what to say about that, because by God, I can't mount my antennas on my goggles without a 90 or a 45.
Yeah, I think in most cases you just kind of have to accept that loss, because you got to point that patch away. But it may add, I don't know, it may add some reason. If it's really 10%, even on average, right? That seems like enough of a reason to mount connectors in different positions so that you can get those connectors, facing for patches and stuff.
I wish he'd got this in dB. He's giving it in percent so that normal people can understand it. If it was dB, then you could assess, how does it compare to, if you've got a 5 dB patch, but you're losing 2 dB to your connector or whatever.
Right.
Wouldn't you be better just bending the wire instead of using a connector? Yeah, presumably having a straight piece of coax that you bend would be better than having a sharp bend in an adapter. So
I guess maybe that should be tested too, right? I don't know. Maybe
so.
that might have been tested, but yeah, if you do a 90-degree bend in one of those matchsticks or something that is bendable, I wonder how much difference that is to adding a piece like that with the connection and the internal points and there's a lot more to a SMA connector.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Sandor Dubronner, for your fine work teaching us about this stuff. Next up, Blunty. We got this story about FPV drones chasing snowboarders. That's something we've seen before. What's unique about this one?
I just thought this was interesting. I don't know that we've seen it in a decently large competition. So this is the Free Ride World Tour. And this was, just very prominently shown in a lot of their shots and video. All their lives had active drones following in all the shots. And I don't know, it just seemed quite involved. So it's pretty cool to see.
So this is a live production, not just like somebody on a slope somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, during the races and stuff, a lot of the commentary was based off of some of that chasing footage that they were doing, and they were showing it through the whole time, going back through highlights and stuff of it. So it was definitely neat to see that.
Nice. Do we know who the pilot was? Do we know what they were flying? Do we know anything more about that?
Not too much. I tried to find out a little more about that, but I wasn't able to dig too much up. So
darn. Well, if anybody knows, we'd certainly love to give credit to the pilot. It just highlights ways that I don't think you should get points for that. I don't think he landed that one. Highlights the ways that drones are making it possible to cover sports in new and interesting ways that were just not possible previously. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. I'm just watching it now and enjoying watching it. I always like to watch how the pilots choose to cover the movement when the person slows down and the drone, if it's an FPV drone without a gimbal, it has to angle down or something, how they choose to do that while not giving the audience motion sickness. Yeah, there's the drone chasing him. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. All right. Well, that's going to lead us right into...
And next up, we have a physics quiz. Everybody loves physics quizzes, don't they?
I do. What's the physics quiz? Ask me the question.
All right. So, if you put a drone inside of a closed box, what happens when you fly that drone to the weight when you pick up the drone and fly it? And then, also what happens, continue, what happens when you take the lid off and you remove the sides? Does that change anything?
Okay, so in a closed box, I think that conservation of momentum means that if the drone is hovering, it must be imparting a downward force to the ground below it. In other words, when the drone takes off, the weight in the box stays the same if it's hovering. I think that's how the physics have to work. When you take the lid off, it's possible that some of the air will get out of the sides, but it doesn't seem like, as long as it's like below the level of the lid, it could actually be imparting any momentum outside the box. So I think the weight stays the same. And when you lower the walls, now you could be imparting momentum on the ground outside the scale. So I think when you take the walls off, you'll see the weight goes down. I'm locking in my guesses, Regis.
All right.
All right. Now let's look at the real answer.
Yeah.
So here's Action Lab.
Yes. Yeah. So hop to around 127.
All right. 127. He takes off. He crashes a lot. It's a little Emax drone. I know that drone. Yishin. Nope. Still 0 grams. 0 grams. Yep. Even when he was pressing against the top of the box, which you would think would cause it to try to lift off. Yep. 0 grams. No change. All right. That's 1 for me.
All right.
All right.
So then we'll check out right around 245, somewhere in there.
245. All right. The lid is off the box now, right?
Got no lid on the box. Yeah.
He's having a lot of trouble flying it. It's bouncing a lot.
Still basically no
0. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing like 1 gram, but I think that's just because he's bouncing. And when he flies out, boom, negative 20 grams, just to prove.
Yep.
Just to prove that it was, in fact, like working. All right. Next.
And then around 330, we'll get the last test.
Okay. That's 2 for me. That's 2 for me. Now, that's a pretty big piece of that's a pretty big piece of glass.
Yeah,
if he goes near the edge of that glass.
Based on what you said, I think this shouldn't change it because, you were saying if it blows out.
Right.
Yeah.
If he gets near the edge, it's going to go down. But here, same thing. No. There you go.
Yeah.
Conservation of momentum, kids.
So no change. Yeah. So the big thing that I was confused about was imparting forces on the side versus the bottom. So I was basically close, but I thought it would be a little bit different from variances from the wind and stuff. But then you forget that we're in an active system where it's consistently moving the motors to change the output for what's under it. So no matter how much is lost, you're gonna get the extra by it increasing throttle.
Yeah, exactly. If it's hovering, then you're in a steady state, and the forces are all equalized. And if it's resisting gravity, then it has to be imparting a downward force. So, but it's a great little demonstration of this principle. I mean, we've heard examples of this. Like Rotor Riot did an episode where you try to fly a drone inside a... Didn't Rotor Riot do the episode where you fly a drone inside of a U-Haul? I think they did.
I remember something about that.
Same thing. Fly a drone inside of a bus or on a plane. License to Drive says the drone weighs so little. Yeah, but I mean, the drone weighs 20 grams. The scale can definitely read 20 grams difference, as demonstrated when he flies out of the box. So
yeah, it's maintaining within like 1/20th or one,
Yeah.
Something
now he's going to
that.
do it with his DJI Mavic. With the larger props, it probably will press more on the ground outside the glass. I don't know. Maybe it won't. Very cool. Very cool test. Thank you to Action Lab for doing this test.
Yeah.
Really neat. Alrighty. Next up.
The next up, we have a video from from outside the FPV field, which the last one was but at least was a little drone related. This is just looking at our brushless motors that we use, but I thought this was one of the best explanations and videos I've seen for reviewing how our motors actually work, including going like heavily into physical, descriptions and details, showing all these examples, and then giving great diagrams and little 2D explanations of exactly how everything's working. So.
Really cool. Yeah, a lot of, you could watch a Chris Rosser or Ryan Harrell video where he talks about motors and without having a sort of an in-depth understanding of how they actually generate torque and generate movement. A lot of that's going to go right over your head. So these brushless motors, now I know some, I'm looking at this and going, man, that ESC is from 2015. Doesn't matter. It's still the same principles. And it's really freaking cool that somebody's gone to the trouble of making these graphics and stuff.
Yeah, I think the special thing here is like the fact that you have all these graphics that explain exactly what's going on. Like when he talks about the FETs, he draws the FET circuits and stuff for you. So I think it's a little easier to visualize things when he's explaining each part of the motor.
Yeah, so if you want to know more about how brushless motors work, check out this video, linked down below. Did you learn anything from this video that you didn't already know, Blunty?
It didn't. It definitely helps to see everything, but this is basically, my understanding just laid out so well that it's just, something you typically don't see is how well this is laid out. So.
Oh yeah, here's the diagram of how the FETs are driving the coils. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, that's what an ESC is doing at the end of the day.
He even goes through the code that you would use on an Arduino to drive it from the basic instruction set and stuff.
Neat. Neat. Very cool. What a great resource from Engineering Mindset. And that is linked down in the show notes below, as always, as with all of our stuff. Alrighty, we got 2 more segments this week, Blunty. Getting to be regular segments. The first is the drone cinematic of the week. You want to just jump into it, or you want to set it up?
I'll just say this is from Jay Christensen, who did the bowling video that we looked at, and I think most of the internet looked at, which was an FPV one-shot through the bowling alley. And you'll remember from that, it's not a perfect one-shot, but it's like a seamless, it's meant to look seamless and be like a really good kind of video for everybody to check out. Who's necessary. You don't need to be into FPV to be really down with the video. It's produced for everyone. So
yeah, so let's check it out. It is 2 minutes long,
and this is you can play the audio. He has the area
all
audio,
fully audio. Yeah.
Yes.
So this looks like Vegas. Is this Vegas? Park MGM? Is that Vegas? No.
I believe so. Yeah.
It is.
I'm not sure where they are.
Okay. T-Mobile Arena. Presumably all done with permission.
Yes.
No cuts yet that I would see.
Welcome to Las Vegas for NHL All-Star Skills. This event is sure to be a spectacle.
Wow. Nice audio. Ooh. It's a little stuttery. Is it stuttery?
Feels like kind of like shot at 30, rendered at 60 or something. Like it is. It does feel a little stuttery to me.
Yeah. I think he didn't quite have the frame rate that he needed.
Game. You've gotten to play in some really cool places. What are you most looking forward to here in Vegas?
Man, I love the behind the scenes stuff, the morning skates. I just really enjoy being around the guys.
That's got to be the actual audio from the interview. That's great.
Yep.
Just recorded it. I was going to say, the fact that she's got a mask on makes the lip sync easier.
True.
Nice.
Ready to drop the puck on the NHL's All-Star Weekend festivities. Extra festive, Vegas style. Viva, baby, viva.
What the heck? Really nice. Man. So much preparation goes into a shot like this.
It really does. It really does.
Boom! Right in the net. Right in the net. Wow. So much preparation. My God.
Yeah.
MC's Creations wants to know how they captured the audio without the quad's noise.
That's all. I think that's all like playback post stuff. So like it's like reshot, you know.
Yeah. So they just record audio of skates on the ice. They just record all the audio and they edit it in. They don't use any of the original audio.
Yeah, all those interviews, like that interview that they were doing was just like redone for the shot, you know, so that they could play the audio over it.
Yeah. Amazing. It's really, someone asked recently, and I don't remember where, maybe it was on a live stream, they asked, you know, do they plan shots like this, or do you just kind of show up and wing it? I'm like, not a shot like that.
Shot like that definitely takes a lot of planning, especially with all the ways they open. And like you said, it's hard to tell a cut in there. There might be a cut going through a doorway or window, some of the like open cuts and stuff, but there's a lot of planning there to do. So got to get it right.
Crazy. Really good stuff. It's hard to imagine, like you've been hired by this hockey team or this arena to do this shot, and like explaining to all the actors what is going to happen. Like a drone is going to fly in, and you're going to like, no, we're going to be in the other room, but just wait for it. It's such a different sort of production than there's a camera and action, go.
I was going to say, it reminds me of like, I'm sure how it is when they do the, what's it called? Where they do one shots where they're doing like a flash mob, or where they do like, you know, you go through a whole school and everybody's dancing in order and they've all got signs and stuff. Like that same idea where like everybody's got to be in ready for the shot and stuff. So
yeah, really cool stuff. It's a real skill, and it speaks to that the skill there is not just piloting. You can be a great pilot and still the ability to visualize that shot and then execute it is crazy. It's good
and also,
stuff. Like
you said, also logistics and making sure they have everybody there and everybody's got to stand around waiting for the shots to happen. And there's a lot. So.
Yeah. All right. I'd love to know more. Like, do they previs it? How do they communicate to the actors what they want to see and what they want to happen? I'd love to know more about that. So, all right, Blunty, we got one more segment for tonight. No, that's not that. It's going to be this one. It's Barely News. Yeah. Which are just a couple little items that we wanted to include that aren't quite, full-fledged news items. What do we got?
First off, we talked about Google Wing before, and now in the Australian Capital Territory, you might be a possible recipient for a drone delivery from Coles, not to be confused with the American Coles, Kohl. Apparently Coles in Australia is a grocery store. So Coles will be delivering with Google Wing. They start with 250 items, doing healthcare and personal stuff, just like they've done in a couple other test areas. With the same system to try to spread it out and see how it goes. So if you're in one of these suburbs listed on the screen here, you might give it a shot and see how it goes for you.
All right. Well, if you live in one of those suburbs, I'd love to talk to you about making content about this. I have yet to actually talk to someone who can get drones delivered, a drone delivery in real person with like that they could shoot a video for me or something. So if you live in Crace, Palmerston, Franklin, Harrison, Mitchell, Geerlang, and Colleen, hit me up, email me or something, and let's talk about making a video. That'd be really cool. All right. Next up.
All right. And last but not least, we have the Polestar 02. So we talked a little bit about a previous concept car, a patent that was registered. And it was basically a tethered drone that would fly behind your car. Well, they've decided instead to do away with all that worry. Instead, it's an untethered drone that unhooks from the back of your car and flies right up and takes video automatically. If you scroll down a little bit,
a follow me mode kind of a thing.
Yeah, there's a little section for it. If you scroll down a little farther,
it's a good looking car. a nice
about the
looking
car.
car.
Yeah, this is the new concept car from them.
Oh. Okay. Uh-huh.
You go. Like, so if you play that little section there,
Probably
just goes over like what their concept for it is, which is essentially they think that they're going to be able to do it while you're driving. And I don't know that. I mean, obviously, I don't think there's any world we can do this in where BVLOS where you're not controlling it, where you launch it out the back.
No,
of
the
car.
FAA would just. This is not legal. You can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know there is no pilot in command, and you're launching from a moving vehicle. The FAA would not be okay with this.
Yeah, this is their new version. What they're calling this is like the new version of like those car ads where a guy like goes down through all the mountains and valleys and stuff. They imagine that you're the one making the videos now. So obviously this is all like fake footage. It's a concept.
The fuck. Oh, dynamic. Now it's dynamic. What's that gonna do? Woo! Oh, yeah, no, this will definitely crash.
Yeah.
This will not work.
This is what other people think drones do.
There is no world in which this would work autonomously in the real world. Impossible. It's a fantasy. Oh, come home. Charge up. Give me the footage. Give me that sweet, sweet footage. Okay, oh, we're gonna land.
So they do point out that like they want to do this, but I don't think feasibility and realistic technologies is something that can make this possible. So.
Yeah, no. That's cute. I don't know if I want like a drone to be part of my car. You know?
Yeah.
It's like having an 8-track in your car. It's gonna be out of date. It's cool, it's clever, but no one should actually do this.
Yeah. I don't think it makes sense.
DQ says Preston wrote the AI flight code for it.
Yeah. New from Flight 1. It does seem like something that's cool to show people, and it seems cool. That's for sure.
Yeah. You need a pilot for that, I think. Cute. Alrighty. Well, that is going to bring us to the end of the news this week. Before we go, let me read the super chats. We just got a couple super chats that came in. Virgin FPV left €6 worth of super chats saying, yesterday, Virgin FPV has some frame design he thinks is amazing. I'm guessing it's a Y4. He said it wasn't a Y4, but he said it had 4 motors, but only 3 points of thrust. Three points of thrust. I was like, is it a Y4? He was like, no. Now he says yesterday's design was bad. Yesterday, this was the best frame, like the best. Today, it turns out that was bad. No balance when yawing. Has a hexacopter with a Y6 motor config been done before? Yeah, that's just a Y6, right? That's just
I don't know. I'm confused about what that means. Hex means
a coaxial hex. 3, a Y-shaped with 2 motors per arm.
Yeah.
Yes, that's been done.
Yeah.
Check Virgin FPV Thingiverse print, please. All right, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Because you super chatted, so I feel like I have to. I don't think Thingiverse search is shitty. This is the only thing I see. This is the only thing I see when I search for Virgin FPV. Is the Tyrannus symmetric muscle memory. It does. Okay, so there we go. Is that you, Virgin FPV? Thank you, Gustavo Sangzerla, for 50 reais as well, and Mike Speedy FPV. Thanks for £5. That's going to do it. That's going to bring us to the end. We're a little bit early tonight. Maybe I'll have some time to play Elden Ring finally. I have 3 hours of playtime. How much do you have?
Around 70.
So. When did it come out?
I don't know.
Last week, I think. I think it came out last Tuesday because we joked about it on the news.
Yeah, somewhere around there. But
70 hours. That. So you put in essentially a lot of overtime on Elden Ring.
Yes. Very true.
That's great. More power to you. There's no rant tonight, MC's Creations. If you guys have a rant that you think we need to do, or any news item that you think we need to cover, email news@fpvknowitall.com with your submissions, and we will consider it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Blunty.
Don't forget to go subscribe to this channel if you forget. Put a thumbs up down there. Thumbs up this video. And hit the bell so you get all the notifications. And subscribe to the Joshua Bardwell Clips channel.
Now they want me to stream Elden Ring. Maybe I'll stream some Elden Ring. And I'll get some playtime.
All
Maybe
right.
I'll start. Keep your eyes peeled. Maybe later tonight I'll stream some. You never know. I wanted to play with you a little bit, but you're like level 700 now, and I'm like level 3, and I don't feel like it would be fun for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I might make a new character to join you. Just let me know.
I'm not trying to pressure you on stream where you have to pretend to be nice.
Yeah.
I was just saying. Or before the stream, I was like, make a new character. Start over with me. He was like, nah, not doing it. I'm not going back there. I am so weak. All right. All right, you guys. That's going to do it. Happy flying to everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Later, guys.